name's Michael O'Loughlin. My colleague in Peaceworks, Rebecca Spence, asked me to put some ideas down on a podcast for peace workers around wounded narratives and the importance of wounded narratives for peace work. The ideas here are based on my work with people with cancer. They're also based on the ideas of Paul Lederach and other peace workers based in the Middle East. Their work around narratives and changing narratives. Hopefully you get some ideas about the importance of narratives and changing social narratives for peace work. All communities and all of us are storied. Leaders are the messengers and they carry the key narratives that shape us. We live in a time when we're have been shaped by a dominant cultural narrative of modernity, which is all about progress, endless growth, extracting natural resources from and doing untold environmental damage. And many times when we extract these resources, it causes conflicts in communities, damage to cultures, and division between communities and clans. Our lives are also storied by clan and family narratives, by the lived experiences of our families and our clans and our communities, by what's happened to them. If we look at a young person who's suffered loss and undergone periods of traumatic conflict, their way of seeing, the way of perceiving the world, the way of being in the world, is shaped by these experiences and reinforced by these cultural and clan and family narratives. My own family narrative and clan narrative is that of an Irish Australian. And in Australia, in my father's time, we were outsiders, perceived as not quite being able to trust. There was discrimination in employment. My family carried the story of discrimination, that life was hard, that we had to struggle to get anywhere, that the world was even indifferent to our suffering. And it shaped my personal life narrative and script of one of ceaseless striving and trying to remedy the social injustice of the world. This is how my clan and my community narrative shaped me. Think about how a young Israeli settler sees the world, how a young Israeli woman is shaped by her lived experiences and the stories of war and the conflict and what the wars are about. Think also about the young Palestinian whose life is shaped by pain, suffering, displacement, taking on a wounded narrative about the world and how he sees the world. Think about the narratives in Northern Ireland, between the different communities in the north and the conflict, how that has shaped our young men and women, reinforced by the stories of the elders who experienced years and years of turmoil and conflict. Wounded narratives lock us into a view of the world as harsh, threatening, and a way of being that can revolve around distrust of others, being guarded, vigilant, stressed. Once we perceive the world from a wounded narrative perspective, everything we see and experience in the world tends to reinforce that narrative. Every time we see an injustice, our narrative is reinforced. Every time we see someone injured, the other side is to blame. We get locked into positions of right and the others are wrong. There's no grey. Facilitating transitions to me is about creating a space to be heard for your voice and for other communities' voices, sharing our pain, what's shaped us, what's led us to this, a shared understanding of how we've come to this point. It's about letting go and deciding to move on. It's all about restoring our lives, not seeing ourselves as victims, as shaped by events of the past or other stories, but deciding on a new story. A story about being an enabled community and leading a transition to a new, sustainable peace, a different way of being. It doesn't focus on conflict and killing. It focuses on creating enterprises and jobs and family life and community life and diversity. That's the transition Peacebuilders are faced with.